Welcome to the Bold SLP podcast. We are so happy that you're here and can't wait to share with you all of the amazing conversations we've been having.
We are the co-founders of the Bold SLP Collective, and we are also your hosts, Lisa, Desi, and myself, Ingrid. Each of us has a variety of experiences in all things bilingual and bimodal speech-language pathology. You'll get to know us pretty well on here.
We started this podcast to share our lived experiences, but also because we want to bring advocacy and cultural humility to the forefront of every speech therapy conversation. We hope that you'll join us each week, and we hope that you enjoy this episode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Bold SLP podcast. My name is Ingrid, and I am one of your hosts. Lisa and Desi are not here for this one, but we are splitting episode 1. If you haven't heard that one, go back to that first episode for season 2, and we are finishing up our conversation with Marlene here in part 2. We have titled this part Healing because we took a turn in our conversation that was less about methodology and more about personal story and vulnerability. I felt it was important to share because a lot of the times as a provider who has a little bit more experience, I've been in the field for 10 years, I feel like a lot of SLPs who haven't been in the field as long or students look at me as if I have it all together. And I always want to make sure that you know that I don't. So I share a pretty personal story, and if it seems a little choppy, it's because it is. I edited a lot of the personal identifiable details out of it, but I am happy to share in private if you want to chat more via DM. I am an open book on our Instagram, just privately. But yeah, I'm so excited for you to hear this conversation. It's a short one, 20-minute episode today, but let's get going. Welcome to the Bold SLP podcast. We are having the joy of extending our conversation with Marlene today. She was just talking to me about grad school and surviving, and we didn't get to touch on a very important topic that I want to learn about from her. So we are splitting the episode, and so this is a whole new episode that we're going to talk about trauma-informed therapy. I can't wait to learn from you on this, Marlene. I know I've shared with you before, like I'm more of a science brain kind of person. And every time I talk to you, I learn something new about the way I think, the way I feel, and putting words to those things. So I'm really excited for you to share more about this topic. And I'm so thankful for your time because we chatted on the previous episode. And then we still have more to talk about. And you're on your vacation all the way from India. So thank you for staying on.
No, thank you. This is my morning and your evening. So yes. I appreciate you staying up late talking because I always enjoy talking with you. And I am sort of in an oasis right now, staying in India with my in-laws on my first actual vacation.
Aww.
When we timed before the podcast, you helped me realize that this is the first time I've actually just been on vacation to be on vacation instead of like vacation with a purpose. Like right. Usually it's been like we're going to Mexico because it's my cousin's, wedding, or we're going to this city because it's ASHA convention. But this time it's just coming to India, visiting my husband's family, and they live next to the train tracks. So a couple of trains have passed by in between our 2 episodes.
I know. I was so excited that we got it on the recording. I'm like, yay, there's the train.
Yeah. So I finally have time to breathe, and I just appreciate you taking time to talk with me and invite me on my first ever podcast.
Yay! You said that, and I could not believe it, and shame on everybody who's not invited you to their podcast before. Let's get into it. Trauma-informed therapy. I know that we wanted to do a disclaimer, like this isn't therapy, this isn't medical advice or speech therapy advice or counseling advice. This is just a discussion that's really near and dear to Marlene's heart, and my heart, and my connection to her is learning all these things from her. And then it also kind of just goes with our previous episode. I know you said something that really hit me. You said like it kind of the thread that weaves it all together is that exploitative nature of what we have to deal with whenever we are put in these positions where we have to take on more, when we can't say no. And then that's where it all kind of unravels. So
I'm just an example of one, right? So one bilingual SLP, one minority SLP, having gone through
right.
grad school. And we have, thanks to you, built a community of us online. And we've all, I mean, I've heard jaw-dropping stories from the other people in the group, just about some of the things that we've had to endure, like racial violence, discrimination, even like very recently, which really breaks my heart and it makes me emotional because we represent a lot of generation of SLPs. So like Ingrid has been in the field more than 10 years. I've been just like on my 5th year. And then we have a new generation of SLPs. And I know that I don't speak only for myself when I say that it enrages me to hear that these things are still happening now to new SLPs. And so then the topic is really leading to, being exploited or being vulnerable and the jobs that we're performing if we don't set boundaries. And if we don't bring up to our supervisors who maybe don't understand completely, but are willing to listen, amazing things can happen. Like what Ingrid, what you have been able to do in your school district, where you did reach that breaking point and you said, like, how did you achieve change in a system that you are still working in? Like, you didn't actually have to leave. You actually put on your Elwood's pants and shoes and were like, no, I demand a more sustainable way to do this job.
Well, first of all, that wasn't the first go around.
Mm.
And then second, I was mostly like you. I had a really good supervisor, and I know I shared that on my episode. She taught me right away, like, if you keep saying yes, they will want to give you more. They won't realize until, something goes wrong. Like, so before something goes wrong, like, please say no. And she would literally like respond for emails through me, like, because she was my supervisor. They would send it to both of us, requests for more bilingual screenings or taking on another kid. And she would literally respond for me and say, no, she can't do that. She's in her CF year and she needs to focus on her campus right now. So she was my first kind of model. And it was like you said, an SLP who wasn't bilingual, but she'd been in the field for 20 plus years and she made it look easy. But I think it's like you said, she'd spent enough time in this field that she had learned how to set those boundaries and she passed that on to me. But my first go around and standing up for myself didn't go so well. And I don't think I've ever shared this with you. It was, so my daughter was born in May and it was June. So I was very like recent postpartum. And I reached out to ask about next year, because I'd gone on maternity leave, and then to ask about a bilingual stipend. And I was met with pretty much like, you're greedy, and if you can't take what we have, then there's the door. I had to discuss it this year, and my daughter is 9 now. And so I hadn't thought about that in just about that long.
Wow.
I had to discuss it this year because this year was the year that I realized that my title has not been bilingual SLP.
Oh.
I applied for a bilingual SLP position, and all the unofficial things that come out, like, like I told you about my days and how that's allocated, like on my email, it's all, but I realized that on my official, like when I look at my employee printouts and my employee ID, I'm just labeled as any other therapist. And I had to bring that up. And whenever I brought it up, I lost it.
Wow.
Like, I started crying in the middle of the 4th floor in an office building, just remembering, like, I think I was crying for the me of then, not the me of today. Like, I wasn't crying for me right now. I was crying for her, who felt like she couldn't say anything back. She couldn't leave. and she couldn't just like tell that man to F off, because that's what I would do now. But I was crying for her, and it was so crazy. I have never cried at work before. You know me.
Mhm.
Like, I am not a feelings
You're the
person.
level-headed one.
But just like talking to my supervisors about it, because I kind of just said, "Hey, can I set up a meeting?" And she's like, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, yeah, nothing's wrong. I said, I just really need to figure this out about my title, and I hope it's not a big deal. I said, but it's just bringing up a lot of things from whenever I had that experience, and I was treated really poorly. So I'm just like struggling with how to bring this up. And I just lost it.
Oh my goodness.
Like, because she was like, what happened? And I told her exactly what had happened. And I said I only stayed because of my other supervisor, and I knew that person was retiring. So
And you
that was the
needed
only reason I stayed.
like your health insurance and your child, like you were
Yeah.
pretty trapped. You were vulnerable.
Yeah, we were trying to buy a house. Like, it doesn't look good whenever you don't
No.
have an employment history. Like, all these things just rushed through my mind that I hadn't thought about in
Yeah.
9 years. And I cried at work for the first time 10 years in about something that happened 9 years ago. I could not believe it. And I came home, I told my husband I was so embarrassed. Like, I can't believe I cried at work. And then I cried to him again. I was like, it's so frustrating, like, to realize that I was treated that way and I did not know how to stand up for myself. So that's why I think like I wasn't crying for me now. I was crying for me then, for like that 26-year-old me who was a new mom that just sat there on the phone and let that person treat me that way.
Oh, Ingrid.
I told you.
Thank you for sharing that. They should have never treated you like that.
Exactly.
And that's really the heart. And thank you so much for sharing. I think that that's the heart of why we needed to keep talking about this
Right. Yeah,
because
because I hadn't shared that with you. I think we've just been so busy because it just happened. It literally just happened like the couple of weeks before school ended for me.
I had to be halfway across the world for you to share that story and for me to really take it in.
You had to hear it all the way to India.
No, and I really listened to you like with my whole heart and like my eyes are watery just thinking of that experience. And I feel like that is really why we need each other because I don't want to say that we've all been there, but this is an experience that none of us should have had. It should never happen being treated badly and having to suffer through this type of discrimination. And like, there are so many things I could say, and I'm like so angry at that happened to you. But like the experience of having an emotional flashback when you're at work,
It was crazy. It took me by surprise.
it'll just wreck your day. Like it'll just like there's nothing really you can do to stop it unless you've been through trauma informed therapy, which is new for me, which is what I wanted to bring up. Like even on my wall right now, I have taped up papers about how to bring yourself back from a flashback because I have a very difficult time regulating my nervous system when I go to a flashback.
Right.
And it's not really unique to being an SLP, but I want to talk about being trauma survivors and being minority bilingual SLPs. And it's not just for us, like it's for a lot of SLPs because we are, generally female dominated and vulnerable to overperforming and overworking ourselves in general.
Right.
But I know that something that is being talked about in the field right now is being trauma informed therapists and how we show up for our clients. And I would say that probably the overwhelming amount of bilingual SLPs are doing an excellent job at that because we have firsthand experience and we show up for our clients almost to a default. We show up for our families, we show up for our students. Like when they have difficulty with access, with language access, like we're the first to advocate for them. But
Right.
I want to make sure that we are also advocating for ourselves and the same energy that we put into advocating for our students that are being mistreated or being discriminated against, we deserve the same. And when others aren't doing it for us, we really have to like take it upon ourselves to heal the past so that we can show up for ourselves. And you did that. I really applaud you and like admire you endlessly for actually showing up and having that hard conversation, even though your nervous system was like really taking you by surprise there. Like you didn't
Yes.
completely break down, but that's what happens. And grief is something that we can't, and I've learned this, like grief is not an emotion that we can just like skip or repress. It's something that we have to actually grieve. So you were actually grieving yourself 10 years ago, right? So you were saying like
Right.
crying for her more than you were crying for yourself now. And the fact that you took time to like cry about it at work, even when you didn't want to, and then at home again, like give yourself space to grieve that until it heals, because nothing is going to heal the wounds of the past unless we take the time to actually grieve it. That's something that I've learned.
That's amazing.
And I'm,
Yeah, I was able to have that meeting the next morning and not cry.
whew,
And one of the things I did say was, this matters to me, not only like to correct the record, but also because when I'm gone, when I
mhm,
leave, and I said it like that, I didn't even waver and like if and when, no. When I leave, you
mm,
cannot replace me with a monolingual SLP.
yes. This
So
is
that
why.
was kind of like where I stood in my strength instead of like, this is where I'm at now. I'm
Yep.
no longer that, newbie mom and 1 year in, like, no, ma'am.
Yep.
So it was a great conversation and it was really affirming. And oddly enough, it was all women in that conversation.
Uh,
And I was really proud of myself. And so now my title is correct and my contract read the correct title, and it really isn't about money at all,
no,
ever for me. I am not greedy. I'm not spoiled like that person accused me of being,
exactly.
and I'm not naive.
Mm-mm. To be taken advantage of or to stay quiet when you know that this is the right thing.
Right.
So
And my
this is
intentions are good.
absolutely, and they always were, Ingrid. They always were.
Yep.
Not always do people understand that. And I appreciate you being such a trailblazer, because really the reason why I wanted to bring this up is like for all the generations, right? So the older generations, my generations, the new generation of SLPs, like we all deserve to get to that level that you've gotten to. Or if you're in my phase of the career where like you had to walk away because in that situation they were not going to make a change.
Right.
I had to make the change. And like even if we can't do it for ourselves, I like we do it based on principle too. Like for me, I told them like I need to leave because this is wrong and it's not going to change for me, and I can't just keep perpetuating this problem. And just so like in all transparency, when I left my position, it took 2 SLPs to take over my caseload. And I was
My
very
gosh.
transparent about that with my principals at my schools, because they don't see me enough. Like I'm not involved in the school. I'm like a ghost. Like I'm in and out because I'm constantly overworked. And
Hmm.
I told them, I said, it's heartbreaking for me to have to leave. But just so you know, like I know that you don't know my job, but and they always said that too, like, Marlene, we don't know all that your job entails, but we appreciate you. And I would just like that was what kept me going, is that they did appreciate me, even if I wasn't appreciated like on paper, you know.
Right, right.
I just told them, like, just so you know, it's taking 2 SLPs to take my job, and that's why I need to leave. Because
Yeah.
it's really not even 2 people. It's been like we work, it's like for someone like me, it was like 3. Like I did evaluations where there should have been a Spanish speaking and a sign language interpreter. And I
Right.
did it. And I do it with my heart. And no one cares about, in my situation, no one cares about your thoughtfulness and no one cares about the quality of your work. You just need to get it done and make sure you bill it and make sure you write it up.
Mm.
And that hurts me now. I was okay with it before, but now in my healing journey, I just can't do it. And I just like, I'm proud of myself too for coming to that realization and being like, I can't sacrifice the quality of my work. Therefore, I can't continue working here because me beyond words, including like illustrate it for others, like the kind of work I was doing how it's going to be after I'm gone, which I love you said, like, not if I leave, when I leave.
Yeah.
When I leave, this is what it's going to take. And so in my situation, it's like I'm leaving, and this is just like a peek into what I've been doing, how I've been performing.
Managing. Yeah. That's
It's a lot.
I am so proud of you for leaving.
Thanks, Ingrid. I'm proud of you too. And I just want to
Unlike,
encourage other SLPs that are on their healing journey to do the same and do what they need to heal, whether it's staying, whether it's leaving, whether it's chasing after, you know, what you really want, not just settling and not just surviving. Like, that's what you deserve.
exactly. I know. Now I need to like get that mindset onto like starting my private practice.
Yeah. Right. And
I
it
know we
happens in
talked about that.
Yeah, it happens in phases. Like, now you've overcome this thing.
I know
Did you
that
know?
I didn't even know was holding me back or within me at all. It's so wild to me.
It is wild. And thank you for opening up the conversation about it and sharing with us your experience with your flashback, because I totally hold you to a pedestal. Like, Ingrid is like the champion advocate, but knowing that like it's extremely hard for you too just helps
Oh,
me know,
yeah.
like, you're not superhuman. We are not superhuman. That's not a realistic expectation.
It's not. My house is a disaster, like everybody else's, or probably more than everybody else's. Like I
Yeah.
prioritize other things and I get behind on laundry. And yeah, I love advocating and having found this space, but it's still a struggle. And I got there, I think this year, I got to that part of like, I want to get on this because of my mentee that I had
Mhm.
through that bilingual SLP program, which, by the way, sneak peek,
Yes. Yes.
they are launching next week, and I know that we're recording this in June. What is it? 9th today, June 10th.
June 10th in
So
my
it's
time.
yeah,
So it's
June 10th for you, June 9th for me. But on June 16th, the Beam SLP program is launching, and all of that came
Woo!
together. I know, I'm so excited. It's through Sarah at A Bilingual SLP. BEAM stands for bilingual. I'm gonna mess it up.
Empowerment.
Bilingual empowerment through allied mentorship SLP program. And because I helped my mentee through requesting better pay and not to be used as an interpreter, like we walked through all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I got to looking into my own stuff, and that's how I found
Wow.
out about my title and how I was like, well, I need to walk the walk, right? Like if I'm telling her to go advocate for herself, I need to do it too. Well, I know that the last message that you wanted to send on this topic is we can't really call ourselves trauma informed therapists unless we have done the work ourselves.
My last message would be to that SLP or that young person: show up for yourself with the same energy that you show up for your clients and the families that you're serving, because you deserve to not just survive, and you deserve not to settle, and you deserve to be heard. Find your community, find your support group, and never let yourself believe that you deserve less and that you should accept being exploited or being taken advantage of, because yeah, you deserve so much better. And there are people here rooting for you, and there are people here that are willing to mentor you, and you should just take that and run and be the person that you want to be. Don't let, your trauma or your past or your scars determine your decisions, because you can soar. It's possible. You can soar.
You're so good with words, Marlene.
That's a long closing message.
I know. I forgot last episode we didn't do the one word of the episode, so
Yeah.
we might have to do it in like post-production. I think for this episode, my last word would be like that standing up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What would be one word to say that? No, maybe I'll just stick with walk the walk.
It's tricky. Yeah, walk the walk.
That's my major takeaway from this episode. Walk the walk. Because we
Huge.
tell our clients all the time, take care of
Yeah.
yourself first, and, you know, do this and that, and do meditation, and, you know,
Yeah.
go to therapy. And then over here, we're like just, you know, typing away into the night, not sleeping, not exercising.
Totally. We make recommendations left and right. You get a recommendation. You get a recommendation. And meanwhile, like I haven't drinking a drip of water. Drink a drip of water. I skipped my lunch because I was on the phone with a parent and I didn't get enough hours of sleep last night because I was typing that IEP in the morning. So
Exactly. So walk the walk is my last word. What about
easier
you?
said, yeah, easier said than done.
Yep. What's your
My-
last word for this episode?
My word would be worthy.
Worthy. See, so good at this. I'm
No,
so bad at it.
That's a word my therapist has modeled to me. Your word.
Worthy. Ugh, I love that. Thank you for listening and supporting the Bold SLP Collective. You can find a closed caption version of this podcast on our YouTube channel. We will also have show notes on our website. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd really appreciate it if you do all the podcast things. Follow, subscribe, download, and review. And don't forget, we love hearing from you, so connect with us on Instagram at the Bold SLP Collective. Stay bold and humble. See you next time.